I've got my witchy shirt on for the final section of this book. We have been diving deep into shadow work. What is shadow work? How do you know you're ready to do it? Well, how do you rewire your brain? And what does it do to your body? And how can you use astrology to help with the shadow work? All these things we've gone over in the podcast. That's everything that I guide you through in this workbook with lots and lots of journal prompts. Now we're in part 3, the final section of the book that we're going to be going over now. This is diving deep into the masculine and the feminine energies. This is the key. This is the key to understanding ourselves and to have the personal freedom that all of us deserve. Okay, part 3, the divine masculine and feminine. So I'm going to read from the book here. How to embrace your divine feminine energy in order to activate your divine masculine energy. So when it comes to the divine feminine within you, it's all about embracing your astrological moon sign, which we've learned. And to dig deep into your divine masculine energy, it's all important to anchor into your sun sign. So I've gone over that in the past podcasts. We've also talked about how we all have divine feminine and masculine within us, regardless of your gender. Astrology holds the key to your soul's blueprint, and your natal birth chart helps to unlock these mysteries. Now let's continue to learn about the importance of learning about our yin and our yang energies, okay? So a lot of these spiritual concepts mirror left brain and right brain philosophies. So perhaps that's more commonly used than masculine and feminine, but it's the same sort of energy. It's the same kind of belief system, left brain, right brain, okay? That's where we're coming from. So, and when we're talking about if you're coming from your quote, wounded masculine, you can be too aggressive, too assertive, indecisive, okay? Instead of being logical and reasonable and going forward with all the things you want to do in your life, right? Similarly, if you're in your quote, wounded feminine, when you're too pushy instead of being receptive, when you're closed off to any kind of suggestions or to feelings, when you're unreasonable instead of being intuitive. Now let's take a look at this chart. I put together this chart for you to talk about your masculine energies, your high vibe masculine energies, and shadow vibe masculine, okay? Feminine, high vibe, shadow vibe. So high vibe masculine energies are this: decisive, discerning, radiant, action-oriented, assertive, and logical. That's high vibing masculine energies. What's the shadow side of masculine energies? Indecisive, oblivious, egocentric, lazy, aggressive, and illogical. So we've all been there on both sides, right? We've all been there on both sides. This is not pointing, again, I don't do trauma dumping and I don't do shaming and blaming here. Okay, this is all about taking ownership for ourselves so that we can get to the next level for ourselves. Feminine energy, high vibe. You are high vibing if you are in this feminine energy. Passive, receptive, intuitive, emotional, nurturing, and creative. That's high vibe feminine energy. Now, we're not taught to do this in society. A lot of what we're taught in our religions, in our schools, from our parents, from our peers, has a lot to do with masculine energy. Go out, get there, be pushy, be aggressive. Women in corporate America at the office are taught to be like men. So we are very familiar with masculine energies, aren't we? And is it a coincidence that we all know our sun signs? We all know our zodiac signs. So many of us don't even know our moon signs and what the moon can represent for us. This is where we need to be first. You first need to connect with the feminine so that you know what to do. The masculine is the doer, and the feminine part of you is the receiver. So again, I'm going to reread, because again, we're not taught this. We don't know this. This is not, we know it intuitively. We know this within our heart. And I'm here to help remind everyone who we truly are. But we're not taught this in our societies. Feminine energies, high vibe feminine energies, passive, receptive, intuitive, emotional, nurturing, and creative. Shadow vibe of feminine energies. pushy and controlling, closed and unwilling, unreasonable, closed and emotionless, neglectful, unimaginative. So it's important to take a look at this page here and just be honest about where you've been. We've all been on both sides, regardless of your gender, okay? We look into feminine and masculine energies even further here with another funky chart. I did another funky chart over here too. I hope you're impressed. Okay, so your feminine energies is your moon sign, okay? Your feminine energies is your sacral chakra. Okay, this is located around your pelvis and your hips. Your sacral chakra is your feminine energy, and that's all in the hip area and the pelvis area, okay? It's all about creativity and softness and fluidity and flow and sexuality and intimacy. So again, it doesn't matter what gender you are, your sacral chakra is your feminine energy. That's the center for your feminine energy. So it would do you well to do hip exercises, to move the energy, just to get it flowing. The masculine energy, that's your sun sign. This is your heart chakra right here, the heart center. It's located at your heart. This is all about compassion and empathy and willpower and making changes and life force energy. Okay, so we all have this, regardless of our gender. We all have a heart chakra center, and divine masculine high vibing energy is all about compassion and empathy and willpower and going forward with decisions. Okay, so now let's look at another funky chart that I've made here about feminine energies. And it shows you how it goes from here, and then you go there, and then you go here, and then you go there, and then you go there. So I'll show you how I've written it. So when we learn to surrender, we get into the receptive mode. When we get into the receptive mode, our intuition kicks into gear. When our intuition kicks into gear, we become magnetic. When we become magnetic, we receive thoughts. When we receive thoughts, we gain clarity. That gets you into your divine masculine energy. Here's another funky chart. So when we gain clarity, we step into our power. When we step into our power, we know what to do. When we know what to do, we have the willpower to take action. When we have the willpower to take action, we change our world. When we change our world, we have learned how to create and master the art of manifestation. And there you have it. That's how it works. But you can see how you have to drop into the feminine first in order to drop into the heart. It takes focus and practice to drop into your heart, because you got to get out of here. You have to stop pushing away the emotions, pushing away any kind of feedback. And you need to get receptive and passive. And we're not taught to do that. That is not celebrated in our societies. For a woman to be passive, for a woman to be receptive, for a man to be passive, for a man to be receptive, it's not celebrated. And it's not taught. So I give you a whole bunch of journal prompts here to really step into this power, because this is the final key if we want to get in charge of our emotions so that our emotions don't take charge of us. This is how we get back our power, is we remember these steps. These are the steps to remembering how powerful we are. So here's just one of the journal prompts that I've given after giving this information. What are some of the best ways to get into your feminine flow? Is it walks? Is it nature? Is it crafts? Is it meditation? What works for you to get into that flowing energy? And then I give lots of inspirational quotes. Here's one of them. No need to do more, simply be more magnetic. We are taught to do, we are taught to be human doings, but we're human beings. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's truly the key is to slow down. And so everyone touts meditation, and that's great. Can you meditate? Do you meditate? That's great. But if you can't meditate, you've tried it, it just doesn't work for you. I get it. Okay, so how can you get into that flow? How can you get into that receptivity? And how can you get passive so that you can receive? How can you get there and stop the egotistical mind from running the show? I've given some heart-opening tips here. And then I've given a great quote by an author named Kaya Raw. She might be the leading expert on feminine energy. So it's quite a great quote that I've written here. I've bolded here. If you are truly sitting in your divine feminine power, you are going to be very powerful and very humble at the same time. She talks about how to do that. Here's a great quote from Kaya. The heart chakra is a stargate for the soul. This is your true power. It will help you not only change the world, but transform the world and birth something totally new. This is where the message from Source lands. I love that. We all are being called to get into our heart. But how do we get there? How do we speak from the language of the heart, not from the language of the egotistical mind? We're so programmed to stay there to do it. How do we get here and speak from the heart? That's what this journal is all about, step by step, getting you to rewire and step into that passive intuitive energy so that you'll know what to do. You'll have the willpower to do it and go do the damn thing. Okay, so I've given lots more journal prompts throughout here. In the final quotes of part 3 about really dropping in to the divine masculine, divine feminine energy, really dropping into the heart. Here's some final thoughts. I say, love them anyway and forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is advice if you can't get out of the story. You've done all the steps. You've done the journaling. You're still telling the victim story. You're still blaming others. So a wise man once gave the above advice, love them anyway, forgive them, for they know not what they do. A wise man once said those words. His words have been twisted and he's been deeply misunderstood for centuries, that man that said that. Can anyone else relate? Indeed, we've all been there. And if you've found yourself at this point in the journal and you've tried all the exercises and you've attempted to rewrite the script and you've practiced taking responsibility and you've dug deep into your astrological placements and you're still stuck in that victim story, just remember you're not alone. So many of us have struggled. We've been misunderstood. We've been blamed for things that we didn't even do. Our words have been twisted, especially if we've been victims of narcissistic abuse. And that's a little teaser for my upcoming book. But this does not define us, and their misunderstandings and their projections have nothing to do with us. They are stuck in a rut. They are unwilling to change. They cannot see beyond their traumas. So love them anyway. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. So in the end, if you can lean into feeling it, you'll be guided into letting it go. So live and let live and love like you've never been hurt. And don't forget to laugh and have some fun. Life can be so beautiful when you allow it, and that is deeply feminine. So I've got some final extra pages and quotes in this book that I'm going to go over in the next chapter just to summarize it. But I hope that this has inspired you. I hope you haven't gotten to this point of the podcast and or the book and you've tried it all and you're just like, well, I suck at this shadow work stuff. I can't do it. I'm still stuck in the story. And after all, I am right. And they were wrong. And I'm going to keep telling that story. It's okay. It takes focus and practice. It takes focus and it takes practice. It takes focus and it takes practice. So it's work. And that's controversial for me to continue to state within the podcast and within the book. But it does, because a lot of other teachers out there say that it shouldn't be work and you should just remember who you are and you should just let it go. Okay, great. Okay, but if you happen to be stuck in unconscious programs that aren't stopping, that continue on repeat, you do continue to react with knee-jerk reactions. You do continue to get highly offended. You do continue to gossip and share a story of anger because you've been so wounded. If you do continue all those things, please don't beat yourself up. Please don't drown in shame and blame of yourself. Just know that it takes focus and it takes practice to end the cycles. And it's highly addictive. If you've ever been addicted to anything physical like sugar or nicotine or booze, it's no joke. You don't just quit. Sometimes you do, sometimes it happens. Okay, but for the most part, it's usually very difficult because there are some severe cravings when you are addicted to something. So please don't beat yourself up. Please continue to try. If you are highly empathic like me, you're a highly sensitive person like me, you've been abused by narcissists and self-absorbed people, and you haven't had great boundaries probably as well. And you've done the people pleasing thing for way too long, trying to keep the peace for way too long. And perhaps you have picked up some really toxic traits along the road, and it makes you human. So please don't beat yourself up. Continue to focus and continue to practice. And I promise that you will one day be able to take charge of the emotion as opposed to the emotion taking charge of you. Okay. Come back to the final podcast in this shadow work series where I summarize the end of the book and show you some more journal prompts and inspirational quotes